In this Arc Raiders video, I want to talk to you guys about loot runs, but more specifically, what I want to do is I want to talk to you about my favorite loot runs for each map. There's a few stipulations to understand before we dive into the details of the loot runs that I like to do. So night raids are going to be by far the best way to get the most amount of loot. So on night raids, the loot is more plentiful and you can find more rare stuff because there is more things available, such as containers. Example being, if you are looting lockers normally during the daytime and you only see one or two, you go back to that same area and you'll see 5 or 6 instead, which is quite nice if you're trying to gather certain resources and things like that. So that's the big thing to understand, is that most of my loot runs are going to be at night. Solos is also going to be a big way to be able to loot more efficiently. Not only are you going to be not holding up your friends, but also you're not going to run into as many encounters solo. Most people are pretty friendly at this particular moment. May change over time, but right this particular second, solos are pretty easy to get in and out of pretty consistently as long as you talk your way out of certain situations. And if you run into a PvP situation, it's pretty easy to fight somebody one-on-one instead of fighting in team situations. So for me personally, solos have been by far the easiest way to consistently loot what I want to loot when I want to loot. And one final thing is that yes, there are keyed rooms on all these various maps, and if you have the keys and you want to use them, use them. That's more loot for you. But for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to talk about these keyed rooms because there's so many variables with those. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the rooms that everybody has access to regardless of a key or not. The first thing I want to talk about is the Husk Graveyard Modifier. This is an insanely good way to get a ton of money very quick. How does this particular thing work if you've never heard of it before? So basically what this means is that when this effect is on, every static body of Arc on the ground, basically there's static dead bodies on the ground, you could loot these normally, and sometimes they'll have like a power cell or something like that. But now with this particular modifier on, there are more of them available on the map, and they all have a potential of having live reactors or live Arc resources of any kind. For example, if you loot a Wasp static body on the ground, it can have an intact Wasp driver. The big thing about this and why it's so valuable is that you can go around and loot the downed static Rocketeers, and these have a chance to drop the Rocketeer drives. These things are worth 5,000 coins each. You can come out with a crap ton of these in this particular run I'm showing you. I got 35,000 coins just from Rocketeer parts. Absolutely easy tier loot. You're also going to get Arc circuitry, power cells, and all sorts of other Arc resources as well if you're looking for things. Like I mentioned, you can run this on any particular map, but Spaceport, in my opinion, is the best map for this particular event because you can just loot all of the corpses on the outside of the map. I'm going to have it highlighted better on screen, but it's just insane. I found tons of these, and you can find Wasp drivers as well, and you can just load up on these, as well as you can loot the down surveyors, and sometimes I'll find surveyor things in there as well. So again, this is insane for Spaceport. In general, when you see this event active, run to it, grab as many of the Rocketeer things you can. If you don't need them for your workshop upgrades, just sell them and you'll make tons of money from it. So the first map we're going to talk about is going to be Dam Battlegrounds. Now, it's pretty obvious when you're looking at the maps what the high tier loot spots are, right? For example, we have hydroponics, as well as we have control tower / research administration. There's obviously going to be high tier loots in there. However, the big thing that a lot of people miss is they focus on the control tower for getting to the locked room. However, in research and administration, you're going to find a ton of really valuable things on the second floor. You're going to take the zip line up and you're going to the second floor. There's tons of lockers up there. There's tons of desks up there. There's server racks. There's also just various computers, as well as cabinets and all sorts of various things. Again, there's a ton of things to loot up here. Tons of valuables you can get out of here. I've gotten blueprints. I've gotten high tier sellables. Also gotten tons of materials when I need them. So research administration's second floor is going to be insane for all sorts of various resources. One of my favorite spots to go to. Another place to loot right next to research administration is going to be along the dam right here. So basically when you come out and you take this door right here, you're going to go down the stairs, you're going to start activating these bridges. In all of these barred rooms, you're going to be able to go in here, and some of them are going to have weapon cases, they're going to have lockers, they're going to have containers that are going to have good loot. I can find blueprints, weapons, and all sorts of various things in here. And there's also security lockers if you have the particular security locker skill available from the survival tree. So if you have that, you're going to be able to get in there and get that stuff. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this is a pretty well-known spot now, and a lot of people who have this particular perk active are going to be here. So if you have it available and you want to run the risk of running this, go for it, because you can actually reap a lot of benefits from going to this particular spot. Water treatment is also going to be a great spot to loot as well. So there's a ton of lockers available in this one particular room that you're seeing on screen, as well as there's a locked room that's actually really good for weapon cases and things like that. Again, not going to go into details of that. There's also potential to see weapon cases in this little glass room, as well as there's going to be high tier electronics on the little consoles and whatnot as well. The last place I'm going to mention is going to be Hydroponics Complex. complex, this is pretty obvious. This is a high traffic area, not only for players, but also ARC. So you need to be very careful here. I would definitely come kitted up when you go to this particular area, because you're going to definitely get into a fight with somebody in some sort of way. So there's obviously the big dome that's going to have weapon cases as well as lockers and different things like that. There's also some of the smaller ones that can also have weapon cases, as well as grenade boxes, as well as ammo boxes, and all the little lockers and all the crates are going to have tons of high tier stuff. So hydroponics is going to be a great spot as well, but it is going to be very contested, and ARC are very heavy here in terms of Rocketeers and players as well. So really, if I had to do it in terms of my priority for loot, if I spawn toward the southern half of the map, I'm going to go to Research Administration, second floor. I'm going to go in there and loot as much as I can if I get in there early. And then if I can, I'm going to go to the little bridge area to see if it's been looted or contested. And then water treatment right here in this middle area, if I am spawning in the swamp area, it's going to be where I primarily go. If I spawn just north of hydroponics here, I'm going to go down into hydroponics real quick if I get an early spawn to be able to loot there. Over on Buried City, there's a lot of different really awesome places to loot. Plaza Rosa is going to be the more popular place. A lot of people have talked about it in videos and things like that, and it's going to be right here on screen. Basically, there's a little building here. You can go in from the roof or go in from the bottom half, just open the bar door, and there's going to be 3 floors of loot spots. There's going to be dressers to loot. There's going to be tons of stuff in the little grocery store on the bottom, as well as you're going to have weapon cases, ammo boxes, grenade cases. There's going to be stuff to search in the kitchen. In general, at night, there is a ton of things to loot in this particular area. Definitely make sure you're checking the white little cubby areas, because there's tons of them in there as well to loot. You can go out with a massive haul, and 9 times out of 10, the Extract Southern Station, actually 100% of the time, I believe, is going to be available for you to go down. Now, be careful. People have been liking to extract camp this particular spot. So when you're going down there, just be very careful to watch out for mines. Don't take the zip down, and just be very mindful, or just, you know, test the water, so to speak. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind. Directly north-ish of this, it's not the right orientation based on the map, but basically right here where I'm highlighting, there's going to be another loot room right there on the second floor. This also has backpacks, has weapon cases, has tons of loose things on the couches and things of that nature, as well as there's drawers to loot, cabinets to loot, all sorts of various high loot places. So if you spawn within a good radius of these 2 areas, take a chance and go loot them. But the big thing to keep in mind, again, is that this is going to be high player activity. Tons of players are going to be going here trying to get this high tier loot, and you can get into fights. You can maybe talk to people and try and get out of it, but that's going to be the big thing. Is if you're close, go for it. If you're not, just don't even bother. Go for some of these other spots I'm going to mention. My favorite places to loot is going to be the northern part of the map, or again, I don't have the orientations right exactly, but basically the hospital and the research and the travel space area. These are my 3 favorite buildings to loot within this map. So basically, from all these buildings, you're going to get tons of various materials, as well as you're going to get tons of medical things, obviously, and tons of technology things. It's just amazing for being able to get quick money. It's also great for getting resources if you need to craft stuff, for example, your workshop upgrades and things like that, any of the medical things you need. You're going to find tons of these things here. Research and space travel are going to be my main focus when I am in this general area, because they can have tons of things. There's lockers on every floor. There's desks everywhere. There's medical exam rooms everywhere. We can find loose tech items as well as loose medical items. And there's little cabinet areas as well. So again, you're going to find tons of little materials and things like that. You should never need to even buy materials if you just go here consistently at night. There's just tons of things available. Hospital is going to be great for obviously medical things. If you need to have specific medical things for your workshop, such as the rusted medical kits or the biometric scanners and things like that, I find them a lot in the hospital pretty consistently. There's also lockers in the second floor on the back half where you can actually go in there and loot a bunch of stuff out of there. So again, the hospital is going to be great for loose medical supplies, as well as just medical bags and all sorts of things. There's also a locked room again in this building as well, if you have that particular key. Lastly, this map is also good for finding things like residential, like the toasters, the dog collars, and things like that that you need for your particular workshop upgrades. You can go to the grandiose apartments, but I have not had a lot of luck in these particular apartments that are highlighted on the map. What I like to do is just kind of scavenge all the various houses across the map as I'm traveling through. I found tons of houses with intact cabinets or intact fridges. I open them up. There's toasters, there's dog collars, and the dresser drawers and stuff like that. So there, in my opinion, while these areas are highlighted yellow, I don't feel like they're the best loot spots. The best loot spots are just kind of sporadically throughout the map, just kind of walk around and just look around in all the various houses and whatnot, find intact things. You'll be more likely to find the residential stuff you're looking for. So next up is going to be spaceport. So there's the obvious things on spaceport. You can search departure building, tons of desks, tons of technology resources, servers, all sorts of things. There are a lot of people that go to spaceport, so you're going to have some company if you go there. You're going to talk your way out of it, so that's just something to keep in mind there. As well as these 4 buildings down here are going to be great. Rocket assembly is going to be quite good. There's some storage shelves in there that have industrial things, as well as there's some lockers in there. Container storage is going to have multiple floors, and some of the floors are going to have locked rooms that you can just bar your way into, so that way you can actually get those out. As well as there's a keyed room in there that has some really good loot as well. There's lockers, there's desk, and all sorts of things. Vehicle maintenance is similar, as well as control tower is similar. So all of these are going to be great loot spots between all 5 of these buildings. My favorite particular loot route to go on spaceport is going to be the underground area. A lot of people get so focused on these 5 buildings that they forget about this underground area in the center of map around the launch tower. There's going to be weapon crates, there's lockers, there's grenade boxes, there's loose mechanical things everywhere. There is a ton of freaking loot in this bottom area, and it's mostly not contested. You may run into the odd player or so, but seriously, there's a ton of loot in this underground area, and it's one of my favorite places to go. There's also a lot of barred rooms on the outside of this little middle area. You're gonna find tons of things, from grenade cases, you're gonna find ammo boxes, as well as cabinets to search, desks to search. They're quite valuable. You can find a lot of really good things in these particular barred rooms as well. But yeah, my priority when I go to spaceport is going to be this underground area. I'm gonna loot that first. I'm gonna loot all the various little buildings that are barred on the outside, and maybe if I spawn down here just below vehicle maintenance and container storage and stuff, I'll loot these up because they're on the way. But my main priority is to do this little loop on the underground area and then loot everything else if I really want to, if it's already been looted. So Bluegate is going to be the final map, and it's going to be one of the faster maps to talk about because it's really simple how to loot Bluegate. Now, there are plenty of things on the surface. You got Village, you got Warehouse Complex, Pilgrim's Peak, Ancient Fort, Checkpoint. Again, all these places have quite a bit of stuff. If you want some basic things like industrial things, lockers, or tons of desks to loot, Warehouse Complex is going to have a lot of various things to loot. Checkpoint is going to be great if you're looking for those rusted gears or those motors or anything like that. There are tons of vehicles to search, especially at night. Be careful. There are a lot of ARC on the surface here. There's multiple dual packs of Rocketeers flying around, spotters everywhere. It's just quite crazy in this particular area. Village and all the outer skirts areas are fine to loot. There's nothing really crazy. And if you're looking for the Husk Graveyard, the abandoned wreckage is a good spot to go to for Husk Graveyard. Now, the main reason why people come to Bluegate, simply put, is to get to the underground areas. You gain access to the underground areas from the reinforced reception, as well as there's some various drop-ins that I'm trying to highlight here on screen the best I can. But most of these drop-ins on the sides specifically have terminals that you can press, and it will give you a color, and you can just follow the colored path and it leads you to a locker that will give you some loot. You can get high-tier weapons, ammo, attachments, or just all sorts of various things from that. As well as there's a puzzle, quote unquote, underground where you got to find some batteries, plug them into a door, and then you can actually open that up, and there is a loot room full of various things like servers. There's loose tech everywhere. There's other high tier things, weapon boxes, and all sorts of things like that. Be careful. You can get locked into this room. It's happened to me. I've done it to people. It's actually quite funny because you can't unlock it from the other side. You can actually glitch your way through, but nevertheless, it's quite funny when it happens. But really, Bluegate's simple. If you want to get the high tier loot, you need to learn how the underground works. It is massive, but there are a ton of various loot things, not only just in the specific spots I talked about, like the colored rooms and things like that. There's keyed rooms that are really awesome. There's breach doors that are really awesome. Like there's one particularly near the door that I was mentioning that you can open up and lock people in. That's actually really good for loot. Overall, learn the underground area, watch some other videos that talk about it in a little bit more detail, but Bluegate is one of the simpler ones to loot. You can loot the outside, but really the main money is made underground. Alrighty guys, that's all my favorite loot spots for every single map. Let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comments below. Let me know your favorite loot spots as well down in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content similar to this. But anyways, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.